Alright, today I'll be reflecting on the article Body Rituals Among the Nacirema by Horace. After reading the article, I was really taken aback by how Miner described everyday American practices through the lens of an anthropologist. The article made me reflect on how we often see our routines and customs as normal, but when viewed through an outsider's perspective, they could seem rather strange or even ritualistic. For example, the way Miner describes going to the dentist or using beauty products as sacred and secretive rituals really made me stop and think about how our ordinary behaviors might appear from a different cultural viewpoint. It's fascinating how actions that we consider mundane, like brushing our teeth or applying makeup, might look like something entirely different when seen through the eyes of someone unfamiliar with our cultural norms. It also made me think about how easily we slip into ethnocentrism, seeing our own culture as the right way of doing things. We can forget that people from other cultures might view our habits and practices as unusual or strange. This article is a powerful reminder of how important it is to approach other cultures with empathy and understanding, recognizing that what may seem strange to us might hold a deep meaning and value in another culture. The next time we come across something unfamiliar, it might be helpful to stop and ask, what does this mean for them? Rather than automatically assuming it's odd or unnecessary. Now, let's take a look at a communication pattern that's common in American culture: small talk. Small talk is something that happens in many social situations, whether it's at work, at parties, or even with strangers. People often engage in brief, lighthearted conversations about the weather, sports, or other neutral topics. To an outsider, this practice may seem unnecessary or even awkward, like we're avoiding deeper conversations. They may wonder why we don't just get to the point or ask the questions that really matter. But for Americans, small talk is a way of breaking the ice, easing into more meaningful interactions later on, and creating a sense of comfort and connection. It's about filling the silence in social settings and making the people involved feel more at ease. Even when we don't know someone well, small talk allows us to find common ground. This behavior is deeply connected to the American value of individualism, which emphasizes personal space and independence. Small talk creates a non-threatening way for people to connect without the pressure of delving into more personal or serious discussions immediately. In a sense, it's a way of keeping social interactions light and stress-free so people can feel more comfortable and safe in their interactions. Small talk has definitely evolved throughout American history. Like in the early 1900s, conversations were often centered around family or community, and small talk was a way to keep relationships running smoothly. Back then, social circles were more closely knit, and communications often happened face to face in smaller local communities. As the US became more urbanized and people began moving away from their hometowns, small talk became a tool for navigating unfamiliar and sometimes impersonal environments. It helped people break through the barriers that came with living in large cities or moving to new places. The rise of mass media in the mid 20th century, especially television, also played a role. The idea of politeness and presenting oneself in positive light became more important, and small talk served as a way to maintain a certain social image. It was also during this time that the idea of social etiquette became more formalized in public spaces, and small talk became an almost automatic way of interacting with strangers. Today, small talk can be found everywhere: on social media, at work, and even in quick encounters at the grocery store. It has become an ingrained part of our culture that we often don't think twice about when engaging in it, even if it doesn't lead to any deeper or meaningful connections later on. As for the changes in small talk over time, I think it's had both positive and negative effects on American culture. On the positive side, small talk allows people to connect quickly and comfortably, particularly in diverse, fast-paced environments which are common in modern-day US. It's a tool for establishing rapport and breaking down the barriers of unfamiliarity. Without small talk, it might be harder to interact with others, especially in a large, diverse country like the US, where people come from all different walks of life. However, there are some downsides. Small talk can sometimes feel shallow or insincere. It creates an atmosphere where surface level conversations are valued more than deeper, more meaningful exchanges. And in a culture that's constantly pushing for productivity and efficiency, the expectation to engage in small talk can sometimes feel like a social obligation, draining energy that could be spent on more fulfilling conversations elsewhere. With all the demands on our time and attention, we often fall into the trap of opting for the easiest way out, engaging in small talk instead of seeking those genuine, heartfelt conversations that might really make a difference. As we continue to live in this digital age that we're in, the shift toward virtual interactions also makes small talk more transactional rather than personal. We often rely on text, social media, or other forms of remote communication, where the nuances of body language and tone are harder to detect. This can make small talk feel even more detached, as it's harder to convey warmth and sincerity through a screen. Overall, while small talk has benefits in making social interactions smoother, I think it's important to find a balance and make space for deeper, more meaningful conversations as well. A little more authenticity and depth in our conversation might make us feel more connected in the long run, especially when it comes to building genuine relationships. To sum up, Miner's article really made me reflect on how the rituals and practices in American culture can seem strange when viewed from an outsider's perspective. The example of small talk shows how communication patterns, which we take for granted, are deeply connected to cultural values like individualism and politeness. Over time, these rituals have evolved to help Americans navigate social situations, offering us both a sense of connection and a way to keep things moving smoothly in our fast-paced world. But as we move forward, it's clear that growing emphasis on efficiency and service-level interactions means that we should be more mindful of how these practices impact the depth of our relationships. In a world that is rapidly changing, we have the opportunity to reshape how we communicate, making space for both lighthearted and meaningful conversations. So while small talk might serve its purpose, it's essential that we can create room for more meaningful interactions, ones that reflect who we truly are beyond the surface. Thank you for listening.